Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called ReOrbit.
All right, let's dive into this ReOrbit thing.
Yeah.
You sent us a ton of info on this company.
Right.
ReOrbit.
Yeah.
They're based in Finland.
Yeah. Helsinki.
And they've got this really interesting thing going on, it seems like, with data
Yeah.
in space.
They're really making waves, and for good reason. What's so fascinating about ReOrbit is that they're not just building another satellite or even a constellation, They're trying to completely change how data itself moves through space.
Okay.
Imagine
So like the internet, but in space.
Yes, exactly. Like the speed and efficiency of fiber optic internet, but, up there.
Okay.
That's what they're aiming for.
That's a pretty bold goal.
It is.
So ReOrbit,
Mm-hmm.
for those who maybe haven't heard of them yet, give us the quick rundown. Who are they?
Yeah, so they're a relatively new company on the scene, headquartered in Helsinki, Finland, as you mentioned, but they also have a subsidiary down in Argentina. And this is interesting. They were even named one of the hottest startups in Helsinki by Wired magazine.
Wow. Okay, so they're definitely doing something right.
Yeah. And I think it really speaks to this larger trend we're seeing in the space industry right now, what people are calling new space. You've got all these new companies like ReOrbit coming in with a fresh perspective, innovative solutions, challenging the old way of doing things. For a long time, it was just the big government agencies dominating the space industry.
Right. It wasn't really a space for, startups.
Exactly. But that's changing rapidly, and ReOrbit is right there on the leading edge.
So they're like the data traffic controllers of space.
I'd say they're more like the architects of a whole new data infrastructure for space.
Okay.
Because, traditionally satellites were designed for one specific task, right?
Mhm.
Which made them kind of limited in their flexibility and made data sharing, honestly, a real pain.
Yeah.
ReOrbit is changing all that with their software-first philosophy.
Okay, hold on. Software first.
Yeah.
What does that even mean when we're talking about something as complex as a satellite?
It's a great question. So basically it means that instead of building a satellite with rigid hardware that's designed for just one purpose, they prioritize building it with flexible software that can be updated, reconfigured, even after the satellite's already in orbit.
Wait, so you're saying they can make changes to how the satellite works after it's launched?
Exactly. Think about it like this. It's the difference between having an old flip phone and having the latest smartphone. One stuck with very limited capabilities, while the other can be constantly updated. You can add new apps, new features. It's constantly evolving.
That's a game changer. You don't have to launch a whole new satellite every time you need to make a change or add some new functionality.
Exactly. It's so much more efficient and cost-effective. And this software-first approach is really at the heart of everything they do. Take Muon, for example.
Muon.
Yeah, Muon. It's their core flight software, kind of like the brains of the operation, right? But here's the thing. They designed it to be compatible with ANO payload, not just their own hardware.
So even if, let's say, another company builds their own satellite, they could still use ReOrbit's Muon software to manage their data.
Precisely. And I think it's such a smart move because it allows them to cater to a much wider market. They're not just competing, they're collaborating, integrating into the existing infrastructure. But of course, if you want the full ReOrbit experience.
There's more. I did see something on their website called Gluon. What is that?
So Gluon is their satellite platform. They're kind of all-in-one package. And as you might have guessed, Muon is at the heart of it. What makes Gluon really interesting is its modular design. It can be configured to support a huge range of payloads, making it incredibly versatile. Do you need to collect high-resolution Earth observation data? Gluon can do it. Want to set up a secure communication network for a remote area? Gluon can do that too.
So it's like the Swiss Army knife of satellite platforms.
Yeah.
Ready for anything.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do they actually manage to send data between these platforms, especially if they're in different types of orbits? I saw something about LEO, MEO, GEO. It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it can get confusing, but that's actually another area where ReOrbit really excels, making sure that data can flow seamlessly across all those different orbital highways you mentioned. So you've got LEO, or low Earth orbit, where you find a lot of the Earth observation satellites because they're closer to, Earth. Then there's MEO, medium Earth orbit, which is often used for navigation systems like GPS. And then there's geostationary orbit, which is much further out and is ideal for things like communication satellites because they essentially stay fixed over a specific spot on Earth.
Right, right.
And ReOrbit, they have solutions for all of them, including something they call small GEO, their product for GEO operations.
So it's like they're building the space equivalent of a high-speed internet network,
Yeah.
but connecting all these different types of orbits.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I'm impressed. What else have they got?
Well, a lot, actually.
Okay.
But one of the coolest things, I think, is how they take that whole software-first philosophy and apply it to,
To everything.
yeah, to the entire mission, like from design to testing to,
Oh, okay.
it's really interesting.
So have they figured out how to launch a satellite without leaving the ground?
Haha, not quite. But they do use something called a digital twin, which is pretty close.
A digital twin. Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me. What is that exactly?
So it's essentially a virtual replica, a simulation of their entire mission from the design of the satellite and its software all the way to like the orbital mechanics and even the data downlink process.
Hold on. So they simulate the entire mission before actually launching anything into space.
Exactly.
That's wild. What's the advantage of that? Seems like a ton of work up front.
It definitely takes some effort up front, but it's a huge time saver and risk reducer in the long run. And in this new era of, new space, speed and agility are critical.
Right. Makes sense.
So with this digital twin, they can identify and fix problems early on during the design phase. We're talking potentially saving millions of dollars and like months, if not years, of delays.
Oh, wow. So it's like catching those, oh, we forgot to, moments before it's too late.
Exactly. And it also allows them to play around with different scenarios, see how things would play out in a safe environment.
Okay, so they can really optimize everything before they actually commit to like bending metal and, strapping it to a rocket.
Exactly. And that's actually a big part of how they're able to go from like the initial design phase to actually launching a satellite in as little as 18 months.
18 months. That's incredible. Some cars take longer than that to go from like concept to, rolling off the assembly line.
I know, it's really impressive.
So we've talked a lot about the what and the how of ReOrbit, but let's talk a little bit about the who. They're a relatively small team, right?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, they're somewhere between like 11 and 50 employees, at least according to their LinkedIn.
Small but mighty.
Exactly. And, since we keep mentioning their LinkedIn, it's worth pointing out how they use it. They have this really cool vibe on there. Lots of team photos, sharing their successes, talking about their challenges. They even refer to themselves as a second family, especially for the folks who've moved to Finland or Argentina to join the team.
I love that. It sounds like they've cultivated a really strong company culture, which is so important, especially in a field as demanding and, well, let's face it, kind of stressful as space tech.
Absolutely. It's not just about the tech. It's about the people behind it, their passion, their shared vision.
Right. You could have the coolest technology in the world, but if you don't have a great team, it's not going to get you very far.
Exactly. And speaking of going far, let's shift gears a bit and talk about what ReOrbit is actually doing out there in the vast expanse of space.
Yeah. Let's get into some real-world examples. You mentioned they're working with some big names in the space industry.
Right. They're involved in some really fascinating projects. One that stood out to me, and I'm guessing to you as well since you sent us information on it, is their role in the UKCO mission.
Ah, yes. UKCO, which, fun fact for our listeners, means old man in Finnish. Kind of a funny name for a space mission, but it's catchy.
It is catchy. And this old man is making some serious moves in the world of Earth observation.
Okay, tell us more.
So the UKCO mission is actually part of the European Space Agency's InCubed program.
InCubed catchy, what is that?
Basically, it's all about fostering innovation and commercialization of space-based technologies. Think of it like a testing ground for new ideas and partnerships.
So like a launch pad for, well, launching new space technologies, but not literally launching, right?
Exactly. And what's really exciting is that ReOrbit recently announced they'd successfully completed the preliminary design review, the PDR phase, for their part in the UKCO mission.
So they're one step closer to launch.
Exactly. And their role is pretty significant. They're going to be launching an optical payload for a commercial customer. And get this, they're handling everything from the initial commissioning and validation to the day-to-day operations. We're talking data processing, data transfer, the whole 9 yards.
Wow, they're not just along for the ride. They're like the mission control for this payload.
Precisely. And their involvement in UKCO goes beyond just this one payload. They're also using the mission to demonstrate some key technologies that are essential for the future of Earth observation.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, they're testing end-to-end EO value chains, meaning they're looking at the entire process of collecting, processing, and delivering Earth observation data to the end user
Hmm.
and seeing how they can make it as efficient and seamless as possible.
Right, because what good is all that data if it's stuck up there in space or if it takes forever to get into the hands of the people who need it?
Exactly. And this really speaks to ReOrbit's broader vision of creating this more connected, data-driven space ecosystem.
Yeah, totally. It's like they're taking their expertise in data management and applying it to the final frontier.
Yes. And UKKO is just one piece of the puzzle. They've got other projects in the works as well. Like, for example, they recently announced a strategic agreement with Uzma Berhad.
Uzma Berhad.
Yeah, it's a big energy and technology company based in Malaysia. And together, they're going to be developing a small GEO communications satellite.
Okay, small GEO, so we're talking about satellites in geostationary orbit, right?
You got it.
But, well, smaller.
Yeah.
Not those massive things you usually picture when you think of, like traditional communication satellites.
Right. Small GEO satellites are becoming increasingly popular in the industry because they offer a lot of the same advantages as their larger counterparts. Continuous coverage over a specific area, but they're like way cheaper to build and launch, and they have a much faster development cycle.
So what will this Malaysian satellite be doing exactly?
The main focus is on providing connectivity and coverage across Malaysia. They're really aiming to bridge the digital divide and bring high-speed internet access to underserved communities.
That's amazing. And I'm guessing, knowing ReOrbit, they'll be doing it in a way that's, super efficient and innovative.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really interesting about this partnership is what the CEOs of both companies have said about it. They both seem incredibly excited about the potential of this collaboration, talking about how it could be truly transformative for the Malaysian economy, opening up a whole range of new possibilities.
Wow. So not just about connecting people, but also about connecting ideas and opportunities.
Exactly. It's really inspiring to see how ReOrbit is taking their vision global and partnering with companies like Uzma Berhad to make a real difference in the world.
It really is. I'm curious, though, what do you think made Uzma Berhad choose ReOrbit? I mean, there are other companies out there building small GDO satellites. Why partner with them specifically?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it really comes down to this Uzma Berhad. They saw what we're starting to see.
What's that?
ReOrbit's not just offering technology, It's not just about the hardware or the software. It's bigger than that. They have this vision for how we connect and interact with space. Like a future where data flows as freely up there as it does down here on Earth.
Right.
And I think what probably sets ReOrbit apart, especially in this particular partnership, is their approach, that software-centric philosophy.
Yeah.
Their expertise in building these like really complex systems that can talk to each other, that can share data seamlessly.
Right.
That's got to be a huge selling point, especially for a project like this where, reliable connectivity is paramount.
It's like they're taking all the lessons they've learned, all the expertise they've developed from these like really ambitious projects like the UKCO mission.
Yes.
And applying them to these real world, like tangible challenges, like bridging the digital divide, bringing connectivity to places that desperately need it. It's actually pretty inspiring when you think about it.
It is. And I think that speaks to something else that's really important about ReOrbit as a company. They're not just focused on serving like a niche market,
Yeah.
They want to make space technology relevant to as many people as possible.
Okay. Yeah. Democratizing access to space.
Exactly.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
Well, we started this whole deep dive because you were curious about ReOrbit.
Yeah.
And frankly, we were too, right?
Totally.
And I think what we've uncovered here is a company that's not afraid to push boundaries, right? They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space. But at the same time, they're staying true to some pretty important core values: collaboration, innovation, accessibility.
You said it.
And I think that's what makes them so fascinating.
They're definitely a company to keep an eye on. Their journey is just getting started.
For sure. It really makes you wonder, what's next for ReOrbit? What other challenges are they going to tackle? What other parts of the world are they going to, make a difference in?
Right. And with that software-first approach, who knows what they'll be able to accomplish,
Exactly. The sky's the limit. Or, I guess in their case, maybe there is no limit.
Maybe not.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive.
Yeah.
I really hope that you, our listener, are feeling as energized and inspired by ReOrbit as we are.
I hope so, too.
They're a great example of how a small company with a really big dream can make a real difference, one innovative solution at a time. So until next time, keep looking up.
Keep looking at.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.